Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into the world that produced William Shakespeare, but maybe not the Shakespeare you always picture.
Right, not the sort of marble bust version.
Exactly. We want to see the rough, ambitious man whose life was constantly framed by things like disease, massive political shifts, and this explosion of culture, the Renaissance.
Yeah, and for you listening, we're basically tracing the line from a Catholic farming family all the way to the guy who arguably shaped the English language more than anyone.
We'll look at the monarchs who were ruling, Queen Elizabeth I and King James I, his family background, even the weird circumstances of his marriage.
And the theater itself, the actual physical space where it all happened, it's pretty fascinating.
So let's set the scene. We're talking Elizabethan and then Jacobean England. Life expectancy, maybe 30 years. It's brutal.
Mm-hmm. And something like half of all kids didn't make it past 15, just staggering numbers.
Yet somehow against that backdrop, England's pouring money and energy into culture, especially the theater.
Well, it's this weird mix, isn't it? This fragility, but also this growing sense of national pride. They'd had military wins. Religion was mostly stabilized under Elizabeth.
Mostly.
Yeah, mostly. And cities were booming. London especially. People were flooding in.
You mentioned 1 in 8 people lived in London.
Something like that, yeah. Which is great for finding an audience for your play, but terrible when the bubonic plague hits, which it did regularly.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. To really get Shakespeare, you have to look at his family first, right?
The ambition there.
Oh, absolutely. It's essential context.
Okay.
The story kind of starts small with his grandfather, Richard Shakespeare.
Okay.
He was a farmer, relatively poor, Catholic, living out in Snitterfield near the Avon River. That's, maybe 95 miles or so north of London. That's the starting point.
But then William's father, John Shakespeare, he doesn't stick around the farm.
No way. He moves to Stratford, nearby, in 1552, and he becomes this total hustler.
Well, the records show him doing all sorts of things. He was a glover, making gloves, working with leather, but also lending money. He was clearly driven. He wanted to move up.
And you really see that drive in his public life, his civic duties.
You absolutely do. It's amazing how fast he climbed the ladder in Stratford. Starts in 1556 as the official ale taster.
Which sounds like a great job, by the way.
Doesn't it? But then quickly he's constable, then chamberlain, alderman, and by 1567 he's the mayor. The bailiff, technically.
So William grows up watching his dad constantly striving for status, for legitimacy.
Exactly. And that theme, legitimacy, climbing the social ladder, it pops up all over Shakespeare's plays, doesn't it?
It really does. Which brings us to the coat of arms.
Ah, yes. The family pushed for years to get official recognition, a coat of arms. It seems like it was a struggle.
Why? Money. Or something else.
The sources suggest maybe both. It was expensive, but also there might have been lingering questions about the family's Catholic past.
Sure.
Remember, this is a time of serious religious tension.
Right. Protestant England.
Exactly. But John finally gets it, just a year before he dies. It sort of seals their status as gentry.
Okay. And John and his wife, Mary Arden, they had 8 kids.
8 children, yes.
Yeah.
4 boys, 4 girls. And interestingly, 2 of the sons, William and his younger brother Edmund, both ended up becoming actors in London.
So the theater bug was maybe in the family already?
Seems like it, yeah.
All right, so William himself, baptized April 26, 1564. He's the oldest surviving kid, goes to the local grammar school, King Edward VI school, gets a decent classical education for the time.
Pretty standard stuff for a boy of his class then. Latin, rhetoric.
But then the record goes quiet for a bit until suddenly, bam, he's getting married. And this is where it gets really interesting.
A marriage to Anne Hathaway, yes.
Yeah.
Because the timing and the ages are, well, they're odd.
How odd.
Well, Anne was 26. William was only 18.
Okay, that is a gap. But why is that direction weird?
Because normally you'd expect the man to be older, sometimes significantly older, maybe 10, 15 years older even. For the woman to be that much older and closer to, the end of typical childbearing years back then, it was unusual.
Highly unusual. Suggests maybe there was some pressure, a reason to rush things.
Well, you look at the next record. Their first child, Susanna, was born just 6 months after the wedding ceremony.
Ah, so the math does add up, just maybe not in the traditional order.
Let's just say it suggests a certain urgency. They went on to have 3 children in total, Susanna, and then twins, a boy named Hamnet and a girl named Judith.
Okay, so young family man. But then, after the twins are born, we hit what people call the lost years, right? Roughly 1585 to 1592.
Yeah, basically radio silence in the records. We don't really know what he was doing. Teaching, traveling, working for a noble family, lots of theories.
But whatever she was doing, by 1592, he pops up again, this time in London. And he's already involved in the theater scene.
And not just involved, but making waves. The very first mention we have of him in London is actually from a rival playwright, Robert Greene, who's basically mocking him.
Mocking him? How?
Calls him an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers. Essentially accusing him of being some actor trying to write plays, punching above his weight, maybe stealing ideas.
Oh, so instant drama.
Pretty much. But clearly, whatever he was doing worked. Because just 2 years later, by 1594, he's writing exclusively for one of the top companies in London, the Lord Chamberlain's Men.
Okay, so he finds his place, and that company had serious connections.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Crucial connections. They were patronized by, well, the Lord Chamberlain, a high-ranking court official. That gave them status and some protection.
And then Elizabeth I dies.
And James I of Scotland becomes James I of England. And one of the first things he does, he takes over the patronage of Shakespeare's company.
So they go from the Lord Chamberlain's Men to
the King's Men, directly under royal patronage. That's huge. It means stability, prestige, more opportunities to perform at court. It cemented their position at the very top.
And Shakespeare's position along with it. He must have been getting famous by then.
Definitely famous as a writer. He kept acting too, apparently even in plays by other writers like Ben Jonson. And he was making good money.
Right, because he buys that big house back in Stratford.
New place, yeah. One of the largest houses in town. He's investing his London earnings back home, showing he'd arrived.
But his writing taste changes later on.
It seems to slow down after about 1606, 1607. He collaborates more with other playwrights. His last solo-authored play is generally thought to be The Tempest, around 1611.
And a lot of that success for him and the King's Men was tied up in one specific building, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The Globe Theater. You can't really separate Shakespeare's mature work from the Globe.
The story of the Globe itself is, well, it's pretty theatrical.
It really is. So it was built in 1599. And the company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men then, they were shareholders in the building itself. Really quite pioneering.
But there's always a but.
The kicker was they owned the building, the timbers and nails, but not the land it sat on.
Lease problem.
Big time. The lease ran out, the landlord was difficult, maybe wanted to jack up the rent or just didn't like theaters. So what did they do?
What did they do?
They waited till the landlord was away for Christmas, gathered the whole company and workmen, and literally piece by piece dismantled the entire theater.
No way.
Yes. Took all the timbers, rowed them across the River Thames, this is winter, mind you, and rebuilt the whole thing on the South Bank, where they had secured a proper lease.
That is incredible. Talk about direct action.
It's an amazing story of protecting their investment and their livelihood.
So the Globe gets rebuilt on the South Bank, but his troubles weren't over, were they?
Not by a long shot. It stood there, hosted countless plays, until 1613, during a performance of Henry VIII.
Shakespeare's play.
Yep. They used theatrical cannons for special effects. A wad from a cannon shot upwards, hit the thatched roof.
Oh, no. Thatch.
Yeah. Highly flammable. The whole theater burned to the ground in about an hour, apparently.
Wow. Did they rebuild again?
They did, remarkably quickly. A second Globe, probably with a tile roof this time, was up and running within a year.
Yeah.
Before Shakespeare died. But that Globe had its own end.
What happened to the second one?
Politics, basically. Years later, during the English Civil War and the rise of the Puritans, theaters were seen as dens of immorality. They were all closed down in 1642.
And the Globe?
The Puritans eventually just tore it down completely around 1644, leveled the site to build housing, tenements.
So it was just gone.
Vanished. For centuries, its exact location was debated, until archaeologists, amazingly, rediscovered the foundations in 1989.
Which led to the modern reconstruction we have today near the original site?
Exactly. The Globe you can visit now. Opened by Queen Elizabeth II, fittingly.
Knowing about the building itself really helps understand the plays, I think. The architecture, the audience.
Oh, totally. It wasn't like going to the theater today, sitting quietly in the dark. It was interactive, noisy.
Let's break down the space. You had the stage, obviously, but surrounding it.
Right in front, surrounding the stage on three sides, was the pit, or the yard.
Yeah.
This was standing room only. Cheapest tickets cost just a penny.
And the people who stood there were called
the groundlings. They were right up close to the action, and apparently quite pungent.
Pungent?
Yeah, one contemporary writer charmingly nicknamed them the Stinkards, especially in summer. Gives you a sense of the atmosphere, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Close quarters, noisy, probably reacting loudly.
Oh, yeah. They were the most vocal part of the audience. If they didn't like something, they'd let you know. If they loved it, they'd roar. Shakespeare had to write plays that grabbed them immediately, physically almost.
Because the stage itself jutted right out into them.
Exactly. It's called a thrust stage, or a Franz technically.
Okay.
Minimal scenery, because the focus was all on the actors, the costumes, and crucially, the words, right there in the middle of the crowd.
Okay, so that's the pit. What about the people with more money?
They sat in the galleries. 3 levels of covered seating wrapping around the yard. More expensive.
Better view. More comfortable.
Well, yes and no. You got a seat and cover from the rain, mostly. But the view from the lowest gallery might not have been great, and apparently rain could still blow into the upper levels. But it showed your status.
And then there was the area above the stage itself.
Called the heavens. It was the roof over the stage, held up by big pillars. Painted like the sky, stars, zodiac signs. Actors could be lowered from there, for gods or angels descending.
Symbolic. And backstage.
That was the tiring house, short for attiring. Basically backstage, where actors got changed, stored props, had balconies used as part of the set too, like for Juliet's balcony scene.
And performances happen rain or shine.
Absolutely. It was an open-air theater for the most part, and crucially, no electricity.
Right, so all plays had to be performed.
During the day, using natural daylight, which means the audience could see each other just as well as they could see the actors. It wasn't a dark, anonymous experience. It was communal.
Okay, so bringing it back to the man himself. Shakespeare dies back in Stratford, April 23rd, 1616. He was 52.
Relatively young, but pretty average for the time, sadly. He leaves behind this incredible body of work. What is it, 37 plays, generally accepted, and 154 sonnets.
Yeah, is always a bit debated, but around that. And covering the main genres people recognize then, comedies.
Like A Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night,
The great tragedies.
Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, King Lear, the big ones.
The histories.
Yeah, plays about English kings like Henry V, Richard III, creating a sort of national mythology.
But beyond the plots, the characters, which are obviously immortal. What's the biggest takeaway? The ultimate legacy.
For me, and I think for anyone who speaks English today, it has to be his impact on the language itself. It's almost impossible to overstate.
He didn't just use the language, he actively made it.
He really did. The sources credit him with inventing or popularizing something like nearly 2,000 words and phrases that we still use every single day.
2,000? That's staggering. Can you give us some examples of things we wouldn't even think twice about?
Okay, get ready for this. Words like eyeball.
Eyeball. He made that up.
Apparently so. Bump, swagger, lackluster, sanctimonious.
Wow. Keep going.
Zany, bedroom, assassination, critic. The word critic.
That's amazing.
Elbow as a verb, like to elbow someone. Frugal, generous, fashionable, switch, luggage, manager. The list just goes on and on.
So when we talk or write today, we're constantly using Shakespeare's vocabulary without even realizing it.
Exactly. He needed words that didn't exist yet to express his ideas, his characters' thoughts, so he just made them. He forged the tools he needed.
So that's the real aha moment, isn't it? His work wasn't created in some quiet, dusty study.
Not at all. It was hammered out in this chaotic, ambitious, dangerous Renaissance world by a guy whose family clawed their way up, performed for rowdy crowds in a wooden theater that kept getting moved or burning down.
So hopefully, for you listening, you now have a feel not just for the plays on the page, but for the world, the pressures, the sheer energy that created them.
Right. The context is everything.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, something that connects back to that fragility we started with.
Right.
Our sources mention this almost casually, but those amazing theaters, including the Globe, they were shut down frequently, often for months at a time. Why?
The plague, bubonic plague outbreaks were terrifyingly common in London.
Exactly. So think about that. Shakespeare's livelihood, the whole company's existence, depended on the theater being open. Yet constantly hanging over them was this threat of deadly disease-forcing closures.
Yeah, the uncertainty must have been immense.
So consider how that constant shadow, the specter of plague and sudden shutdowns, might have seeped into the work itself. The themes of fate, mortality, chaos, maybe they weren't just abstract ideas, maybe they were daily realities.